Happy Devils Tuesday. This is At the Point. For the first time in 2025, it's episode 10. Yeah, baby. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Bruce Zeman, my good friend that's been snowed in. I'm so sorry, Bruce. As we're streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network, talking some NHL hockey, Bruce. Well, welcome. How are you, my friend? I haven't talked to you in a while.
I know. Well, first of all, happy holidays. Hope you had a great Christmas and or any other holiday that you celebrate. You know, Sam, when I moved here from Vermont, where it snowed all the time, I had this enormous Craftsman snowblower that I used all the time. And when I moved here, people said, "Yeah, you can get rid of your snowblower. You won't need it here." And I'm like, okay. So I got rid of it. And then last night and this morning, we got 16 inches of snow. So I was outside a good part of the afternoon snowing that, kind of cursing the fact that I listened to everybody to tell me to get rid of my snowblower. And the funny part about it is a bunch of my neighbors, who I love dearly, all called me. They said, "Hey, can you come over and help us with your snowblower?" And I said, "You mean the snowblower you told me to get rid of?" "Yeah, that's where it is. It's gone."
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Well, you're definitely a little bit more south because up here in North Jersey, just maybe a dusting at most. Maybe a half an inch, but not as much as you. I mean, when you told me 18 inches, I was like, oh, we just dodged a bullet.
Yeah, I think we have between like 14 and 18 inches. We got a lot of snow, but it's funny because up in Vermont, this snow would have been a memory already. It would have been just something people talked about. It's definitely different down here. The folks, although I love them, they're not good at driving in the snow down here at all.
No.
Not at all.
Well, I'll keep my comments to myself, but lots of things have happened around the National Hockey League, and I don't know too much about this, so I'm going to let you lead on it, but the resurgence of the Detroit Red Wings, ? Has it something to do with the new coach? ? Bruce, go. I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think, first of all, that it is amazingly interesting when you take a look at the standings of the teams right now in that conference. There are all 10 teams are within 7 points of each other. So anything is possible, especially with some games in hand. And, you know, there's always the possibility of injuries. But right now, or let's take a step back. The Detroit Red Wings made a coaching change the day after Christmas on December 26th. Derek Lalonde out after leading the Red Wings to a 13-17-4 record, which GM Steve Yzerman wasn't pleased with, apparently. Brought in Todd McClellan, who's coached, I believe, 1,150 games in the NHL. The day that they fired Coach Lalonde, the Red Wings were 8 points out of the second wild card seed. Today, as you and I do the podcast, they are now only 3 out. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They're playing the Ottawa Senators tonight, and by the end of the night tonight, they could be only 2 points out of a playoff spot. They're 4-1 under McClellan, and it seems like whatever he has done so far, and again, let's be honest, this could be during a honeymoon period, but whatever he has done, it has really seemed to work. But Sam, as you know, with so many teams that close, in close proximity between first and 10th, if we're being honest, there's a lot that can go on between now and the end of the season.
Well, absolutely. And let the honeymoon part of the season thrive for the Detroit Red Wings. You got a new coach, new voice in the room, new direction. So far, so good. And you know what? Being an original 6 team, I always felt that the Red Wings were always a rival of the New Jersey Devils just because of 1995. And, you know, who had the better dynasty? Did the Devils have a dynasty? Did the Red Wings have a dynasty? You know, the arguments could be made, but the Detroit Red Wings, you know, being more relevant, especially when they're in the same division as the Toronto Maple Leafs, you know, it brings back the old rivalries of the past. So I think that is definitely a good thing. I think the city of Detroit has gone through a resurgence. I mean, the Detroit Lions are like number one in the NFC right now. They have resurged, and it's nice to see that the Detroit Red Wings actually, well, let's just say, have a mini resurgence. I mean, they're under Steve Yzerman. We saw what he did in Tampa, and I like to see them succeed. Just because obviously we're all hockey fans. I just like to see the Red Wings be relevant again, especially with the young core that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Steve Yzerman did great things in Tampa, and I think he's going to do great things here in Detroit. I think he was very patient with Derek Lalonde. I think it just got to a point where, he just wanted to see some results. It's just, I don't think they were ready to throw away the season or just give up on the season. And we'll see, because a lot of things change during a honeymoon period. There's a new voice in the room. Some players that are in the doghouse may get out of the doghouse and get a chance to do some things. But McClellan, by a lot of reports, has come in. He made a lot of changes. He changed the penalty kill. He changed the lines a little bit. And so the players seem to be responding, and good for Detroit. But it's going to be a wild finish in the Eastern Conference, and see what happens and who makes the playoffs, because it looks like there's going to be some good teams in the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference too that are not going to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? You look at that Western Conference. I mean, the top four in each division, it's like a dogfight. There's not much room. It is so neck and neck. Like every team, it's just a matter of what have you done for me lately, type of conference. Because right now, I think the Dallas Stars are on a 4-game winning streak, if I'm not mistaken. And and there's a lot of fluctuation. And you remember the Minnesota Wild started the season so well, practically. No, I'm sorry, the Winnipeg Jets did, and then the Minnesota Wild started to get in the mix. So it's just like a dogfight in the Western Conference. But again, having the Red Wings, relevant again. You see what Ottawa, under Travis Green, they're kind of in the mix. It's going to be interesting. Teams that are on the bubble for that last wild card spot, I think it's just for both conferences, it's going to be to the last game of the season who actually gets that spot, which makes it exciting.
Yeah, I think you're right. And if you take a look at the Central Division, I mean, you mentioned, Winnipeg, Minnesota, Colorado, and Dallas within 7 points of each other. But again, that is going to be such a dogfight to see who comes out of the Western Conference. And in the Pacific Division, you've got the Knights, the Kings, and Edmonton within 6 points of each other. So again, there's going to be some great hockey come playoff time. And again, I think you're right. Coming down to the end of the season, there's going to be some playoff seedings that are not going to be solidified till potentially the last night of the regular season.
Yeah. Well, switching gears with another original 6 team. How about the New York Rangers situation?
Well, boy, I'm glad you brought that up, because right before Christmas and going into the Christmas break, you were trying to figure out what on earth was going on there. They had Chris Kreider as a healthy scratch. You had a lot of reports coming out about dysfunction in the locker room. But, the Jacob Trouba trade, is Kreider on the trading block? I mean, right now the Rangers are in 8th place in the Eastern Conference, 18-20-1. They're only 3-7 in their last 10. They've got to get on track. Or what do they do? I mean, do they make a coaching change? There's been a lot of reports that saying that Peter Laviolette's job is safe, but how long are they going to go on with that?
Yeah. It's like they handed Shesterkin the keys to the city and a boatload of money, and he injured his arm carrying that suitcase of cash, I guess. I don't know. It's just everything that has gone wrong with the New York Rangers has. As a Devils fan, I'm jumping for joy. But if you're a New York Rangers fan right now, they are having this prolonged shakeup because it seems like this has been dragging since last season's playoffs, trying to get rid of Jacob Trouba, which they eventually did. They got rid of Capo Caco, who they probably should have gotten rid of a long time ago, or should have never. I don't know, but you remember that video when Jack Hughes was drafted, and I know the Devils social media team and the Devils live game entertainment team have been savages, absolute savages with that video. Again, I don't think it's Capo Caco's fault. I think a change of scenery is good for him. Not every second overall pick is going to be like Jack Eichel or whatnot. But I honestly think right now, Chris Drury, there's a lot of things going wrong in that organization. Even from a business standpoint, you've got Optimum, which was formerly owned by James Dolan, disputing with Madison Square Garden Networks, which the same kind of dispute that Comcast had a few years ago, which is still ongoing. That channel is not on Comcast. Right now, as far as we know, that channel is not on Optimum. And fans of the New York Rangers, Islanders, and New Jersey Devils can't see their teams, along with, a little basketball and New York Yankees. Just everything seems to be going wrong for James Dolan. The Gotham Sports app is not selling. They're not selling subscriptions. And I heard the Sphere is not making as much money as I thought, or is not making money at all. Lots of things going wrong.
Yeah, and I think that the Rangers are getting to a point where they're either going to have to continue to rebuild, or they're going to have to do something else. I mean, you really, I don't know how long you're going to let this continue. I mean, there's like everybody's pointing fingers. All right. So Truba's gone. He's gone, right? Capo's gone, and things still really haven't turned around. By the way, Capo is playing very well in Seattle, by the way, but let me just throw this out there too. Playing for an original six team, if you've ever seen anybody interviewed about this, in a lot of cases, they'll tell you how difficult that is. You and I have talked on this show before about the level of expectations. And while I think playing in the NHL is hard at any level, I don't think there's the same level of expectations as playing on the New York Rangers as there may be playing on, say, the Utah Hockey Club or the San Jose Sharks, teams that are, kind of on the bubble. I think the expectations are a lot harder. And for some players, maybe they play better in a city with not a ton of expectations. I don't know if that's the case, but I think with the Rangers, they're getting to a point where I think that the fingers are going to start pointing upstairs if things don't start to turn around. I mean, if you're not going to get rid of Laviolette, who I happen to think is a pretty good coach, if you're not going to get rid of him, do you get rid of Chris Drury? Is it time for a new voice in upper management? Because you're right, this has been going on for a while.
And just remember, Glenn Sather was with the organization for a very long time, now has retired. I don't think he's even doing any consulting anymore. Chris Drury, when he came in, he went in guns blazing, because remember, it wasn't too long ago that the New York Rangers season ticket holders got this letter saying that, okay, we're folding the cards now, but we're going to do it the right way. And they were on track. They were actually on track, but you got to go with the growing pains. Hence why they got the second overall pick, and then by stroke of luck, I have some conspiracy theories on it, got the first overall pick in 2020, that you thought had they just stuck with the rebuild and actually nurtured and developed these young players, and instead of signing big deals like they've with Panarin and all these other players, I think they would be in a much, much better situation right now than what they're in. Honestly, if I were James Dolan, which I'm not, he's probably want to win now before he sells off these teams to somebody. Because eventually I think he's going to sell it off for big bucks to somebody. Which investor wouldn't want two New York teams at Madison Square Garden at the same time? I think if best interest the play for the organization, I would have torn it down and not even given Shesterkin that contract and sell off the assets and get so much in return. But I guess you can't do that in New York, can you?
Well, I mean, you would have gotten hung if you let Shesterkin walk or you let him go to another team. I mean, the fans aren't going to tolerate that. Again, to me, the expectations are they're just different. I mean, you're not going to be able to have a lengthy rebuild on a team like that. You're just not. The question is what do you do? And we've discussed this before as well. You know, I've always believed that organizations need to have finance guys and you need to have hockey guys. And just take a look at this from a hockey perspective and say, listen, is this team we've got on the ice good enough to do anything? And if not, then you've got to rectify that. And if the people that are coming up with that plan are not doing that, then maybe you need to change those people. I just don't know how much more runway you're going to give the upper management. I mean, the Rangers played very well on Saturday. They beat the Blackhawks 6-2. But games like that have been few and far between. And I mean, if they keep losing like this, if they keep having a good effort and then 3 or 4 lousy ones, at what point do you say it's time for a new voice? But here's the thing, Sam. If you get rid of, let's just say for the sake of argument, and I don't have any basis to say this, I'm just throwing this out there. You decide to fire Peter Laviolette. Who do you bring in? I mean, Laviolette's a pretty good coach. I don't think you can go with someone that's relatively new. I think you've got to bring in somebody that's kind of almost like a taskmaster. Like, I mean, if he was still alive, you know, God rest his soul, you know, Pat Burns, like somebody in that mold would be the guy. But like, who do you bring in to fix this?
Well, I think, we saw what happened with Jim Montgomery. He had a job in no time. And, the New York Rangers right now, I don't think there's anybody but Laviolette that can turn this ship around. I just don't see it. I think, you've got enough veteran presence. They should know what to do. The players should know what to do. And it just seems like nobody's taking the initiative, that leadership spot. And Trouba was the captain. Kreider, you've been wanting to be the captain for so long. That was your moment to shine. And he's not shining right now.
Well, I think that there's a coach that can maybe do something with this, but I don't think he's going to get that nod. I think Joel Quenneville, if he didn't have all that baggage, could potentially be the person that could fix us. But I'm not sure he's going to get another shot.
I don't think so either. I don't think he's even on the New York Rangers radar. I don't think even the New York Rangers know what's on their radar right now. I mean, it just seems like day by day, it's just something new is about to happen. I don't know. They're second to last in the Metropolitan Division, just above the New York Islanders, I believe. But if you want to go to the top of the division, the Washington Capitals, you want to talk about a resurgence and reloading instead of rebuilding. They reloaded, and they got Alexander Ovechkin back. I think right now he has 23 goals. Am I correct on that, Bruce?
19 goals, 11 assists for 30 points in 24 games.
Okay. Oh, so he's 23 goals from breaking Gretzky's record. Is that?
Yeah, and here's something funny about this that I did not know. I mean, I should know because I'm a stats guy. When people started talking about Ovechkin's pursuit of Gretzky's record, I said, Gretzky did that in so many fewer games. And then I actually looked this up. So Gretzky in his career played 1,487 games and had 894 goals, okay? Ovechkin, as of today, has 872 goals in 1,450 games. So he's doing it in almost the exact same pace.
Yeah, and I'm wondering because no fault to their own for both players. Ovechkin, when he was drafted, there was no NHL season his rookie year, which would have been his rookie year. It was a year-long lockout, right? And then on top of that, Wayne Gretzky, I believe he started with the WHL his career before he
Two
moved to
teams.
the NHL. Yeah,
He did. He played for the Edmonton Oilers when they were still in the WHA and also the Indianapolis Racers. He had 46 goals his first year.
yeah. So, again, do I want to see the record broken? I'm kind of like one of these like hockey historian purists. No, but they played in two different eras, and two different eras is very impressive because Ovechkin played in the new NHL, going out of the clutching and grabbing. There was no red line when he first started, whereas Gretzky had the two-line pass rule. And and back in the 80s, although it was very loosey-goosey, physically, you may have had to pay the price. It was a much different game. I mean, you had to have a Marty McSorley to protect Wayne Gretzky. You always had to have somebody to protect him. And Gretzky did a lot of great things, but Ovechkin, to his credit, was always super consistent when it came to scoring, putting the puck on net. I mean, he has that sweet spot on the left side point during the power play, a cannon of a shot. So you got to give Ovechkin a lot of credit. I'd hate to see that record go, but you know what? That record probably could have been broken a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, if the NHL and the NHLPA didn't have their squabbles, and COVID obviously as well.
Yeah, well,
that's how sickening the Ovechkin, record is, or the Gretzky record.
I mean, it's crazy if you look at over his career. This is another crazy stat, Sam. Do you know both of them 20-year careers? Do you know Gretzky and Ovechkin both averaged 49 goals a year? Both of them the same amount of goals averaged per season. That's kind of crazy, isn't it?
It is. It definitely is. Is anybody going to top Ovechkin? I'll tell you what. Austin Matthews scores a lot of freaking goals. He scores a lot of goals. But, again, that's too far to tell. But right now, let's just enjoy what Alexander Ovechkin is bringing to the table right now. And that will be a historical moment, just like how when Gretzky scored that goal and he did that little, skate dance or whatever. So proud of beating Gordie Howe's record back in I believe in the early 90s when that happened. All right, let's talk goaltending. This is our last topic before we go. Jacob Markstrom last night was just lights out. I mean, he was just absolutely, he literally stole a game because the Seattle Kraken, they had a lot of shots on goal, high danger chances. Well, I would say 9 out of 10 times each of those shots would have went in the back of the net, but there was a problem. It was Jacob Markstrom, and he was on fire. He was en fuego. He has been consistent about it. Yes, the Devils were on a 4-game losing streak. He was part of that, but it was not because of Jacob Markstrom. And you would have to really consider him, at the very least, in the conversation of being a Vezina Trophy recipient, or at least, in the running for it. He's the second one so far this season in the NHL to have 20 wins under his belt. Season's halfway. At this point, do you think he makes the top 3 right now, knowing that there's Connor Hellebuck and other goaltenders that are equally as deserving?
I think he's got to be in the conversation at least. I mean, 30 games, he's 28-2, 20 wins, 8 losses, 2 ties. He's got a goals against average of 2.17, 3 shutouts, and the save percentage over 91. He's on pace to have the best season of his career. In a lot of those stats, I think absolutely he's got to be in the conversation, at least, to win the Vezina trophy. And you're right. I mean, last night he did stand on his head. I don't think, and this is no disrespect to Jake Allen, but I'm not sure the Devils win that game without him in net last night.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of the saves that he was making was just highlight reel. I mean, you can honestly say, and I think there was somebody put that out there, that there were 3 saves that he made, could have been 3 saves of the year on ESPN. Like, they were just highlight saves. And you know what? One of the things that I loved about the game and Jacob Markstrom was he just kept going. Like it was like business as usual. He would make a great save, and he was always, his demeanor was good, and I think it rubs off on his own teammates. You know, there were a lot of saves that he made. That game could have been 8-3 Kraken, but Markstrom got in the way, and he flashed the glove, he flashed the blockers, he flashed his helmet. He was just point blank range shots, and he was able to get a piece of it, and was just good enough to just hold down that fort. And New Jersey winning 3-2. He literally stole that game, like I said. And I don't think the Devils have had a goaltender. And I know they've had Corey Schneider, and he had a couple good years, but you know, they had Mackenzie Blackwood, where he had a let's just say a nice stretch, and Vitek Vanacek. But I don't think the Devils have had a goaltender that can just change a game just like that since Marty Brodeur.
You're right.
An absolute game changer. And there are a few goalies that do that. And what makes him more remarkable, Bruce, Markstrom is 36 years old and was supposed to be on the down back 9 of his career. He could be another Tim Thomas, where Tim Thomas, when he was like, you know, in his mid 30s going to 40, his game level rose. He got better with age, like wine. And I think that could be possible with Jacob Markstrom. But I caution you, he is a big goaltender. As long as he stays healthy, and that's as long as he does, you know, I think the Devils made a hell of a trade to get him, especially when Calgary retained some of his salary against the cap.
Yeah, and I think he wanted to come here. We analyzed this earlier in the season, and I think this is a good thing that he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder to say, okay, I'm going to come here and I'm going to hopefully lead this team to a championship. I mean, the game last night was the reason that they brought him here. That's what I remember thinking to myself. This is why they brought him here, and I think he absolutely has to be in the conversation to potentially win the Vezina. I am a little concerned because the Devils, had a little bit of a bumpy ride, especially against San Jose and Anaheim. And I texted you. I said, you can't be giving up points like this to teams like this. But we'll see what they're able to put together. But I mean, I think they're going to lean on Markstrom a little bit more.
They're going to lean on Markstrom, but, let me tell you, though, it still doesn't solve the problem. The reason why the Devils were successful in December, they played great team defense in front of Markstrom. Markstrom bailed them out yesterday. And the other losses, you can blame it on the refs. I think that's fair. But at the same time, those 4 losses in that 4-game losing streak, it wasn't because of Jacob Markstrom. It was just poor team defense. And they need to get back to that, because good defense leads to great offense. The Devils are a great transition team. Play defense first, let the puck come to you, and go the other way. And I think the Devils would be successful that way. But you know what? What we saw was they were chasing around players. They were just out of position. And it was just Jacob Markstrom being a great wall that he was, and just stopping every shot that went at him.
Yeah, and I just want to get back to your comments about the officiating, because there have been a couple of games I've seen, Devils games in the last 3 or 4, that I've just been kind of scratching my head like, what's going on here with this?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you even remember the Colorado game where Scott Wedgwood got hurt, and you would figure that they would blow the play dead when the puck went in the corner. They didn't, and basically allowed the opposition, the Buffalo Sabres, to just score like that. And the reasoning why it's, well, your player threw the other player is, too bad it's sad. That's just so asinine. I'm just a big critic of the officiating, because right now, Bruce, I've said this many times, and again, I don't want to spread rumors or conspiracy theories or whatever, but it's so hard to ignore in the sports betting age that even video replay is driving me crazy. Some of those decisions, like, it's driving me crazy, because I'm looking at the same thing on that video replay, just like any other NHL fan. And when we're not seeing it, we're calling BS. Something's not right here. So, again, I'm not saying that there's bad things happening. It's just the officiating and even the video replay judgments have been very questionable.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if they had to go on television and explain that. Imagine they had to explain that, because I completely agree with you. I mean, some of these,
I think they should. I think they should. And the reason why is we live in the sports betting era. I want to make sure, like, your brand is the NHL, just like the brand of the NFL or the brand of the NBA or Major League Baseball. You have an obligation to the public to explain some of these decisions, whether it's popular or not, whether fans agree or not, instead of these PR spun, tweets on X, of what actually happens. Like, okay, thank you, Captain Obvious, but I don't know. I don't need to know what happened. I need to know why you made that decision, and they never give it to you, which is equally as frustrating. Which this is how conspiracy theories, start to develop. What's going on here? Is anybody making money elsewhere? Again, I hate having that conversation. It feels dirty, because I love these sports. But even college football, even the replay decision, I don't even get it anymore.
It's hard to not feel that way, Sam, when there's money involved. It's all about the money.
Of course.
It's all about the money all the time. And I've said this to you, I probably said this a dozen times on the show. If the NHL could put a team on Saturn and make money, there would be one there. They just would. But I mean, let me just throw this out there too. And you know why I'm talking about the explanation too? I don't know if a lot of people know this about me, and I'm certainly not at the NHL level, but I was a hockey referee for 20 years. And anybody that's been a referee will tell you some of the most difficult calls to make, I know this is going to sound silly, is stuff that happens right in front of you. Like, you may just totally miss it. I mean, I know over my career, there has been times I've had to say, look, I missed, I blew it. And that happens. And I think that would be better than not.
Focus. It's the level of focus, because you can't focus on everything on the ice, but you can kind of focus what's in front of you. But if the violation in front of you is not what you're focused on, even though the optics says it's in front of you, I can understand how you can miss it. But video replay is a tool in the NHL.
Right.
And I don't understand how they're messing that up.
Well, and there's no explanation for it either. I mean, if you had put Wes McCauley, who I love, all right, put him in front of a microphone and have him say, listen, I messed it up. I mean, for a referee to do that, and that's not ever going to happen. You have to just say, all right, well, he's human. He made a mistake. But then if you've got the video replay to show why he made a mistake, that's totally different than people saying, oh, did they miss that call because the Rangers were a 2-goal underdog to Colorado?
Yeah. And do you remember in Major League Baseball when a pitcher was throwing a perfect game? I think
Detroit.
His last name,
the Tigers.
Yeah, I think his last name was Galarraga.
Yeah.
And literally the ump blew it.
James
And then
Joyce.
afterwards, yeah. And afterwards, he felt so sick to his stomach that he literally took it away. That I think Galarraga said something of this nature. It was like, no one's perfect. And it said it all. Like, I love honesty and accountability because I believe that 99% of us biased Homer sports fans have it in us for forgiveness and moving on, and that we can respect the integrity and honesty and accountability over what the result of that actual call that was blown. Most of the times, nobody acknowledges it, which drives me insane. Like, there was one time in 2002 NFL wildcard game, Giants and San Francisco, the Giants missed a field goal, but there was a penalty, but the refs got it wrong. And in a very rare occasion the next day, even though it was a moot point, like, what's the point of it? The NFL apologized that, yes, that was incorrect. The referee should have done this. Didn't change anything, but it was nice to know that it was acknowledged. We can move on, and I think any of us would agree that we're all human. Let's act like it, and let's, and again, even though the calls may be wrong and the human element will have errors, but the human element in the sports we love is why we love the game. That's my final thought.
And
that's my point.
Well, yep. and it's a good point. And I'll just say this too. I've played this sport or been part of hockey for 40 years. It shows how old I am now, okay? But to anybody that is going to scream at an official or criticize an official, I'm going to say this. You think it's that easy to do? Get out there and do it, because it is not easy, especially hockey. I think hockey is the most difficult sport to referee because there are so many different things that you're looking. I mean, take football, for example. All right, the play stops, you align yourself, and then you've got 8 or 9 other officials, okay? On even in a professional level, in the NHL, there's 4 officials, 2 of which are on the other side of the rink. Plus, you're also trying to make sure you're not going to get hit in the melon with, a biscuit fired at 105 miles an hour.
Yep.
You're breaking up fights. You're doing all this other stuff. So anybody that thinks it's that easy to do, I welcome you to try it. I guarantee you, as the sun is going to come up tomorrow, you will have a different perspective after doing a game.
Yep. Refereeing is one thing, though, Bruce, but video replay is a totally different.
No, you're right.
Ball game, because I still don't understand whatever, and I guess maybe we don't understand that you kind of have to be a lawyer with the rules. But then again, what's in the spirit of the game? But that's another topic, for another day.
Just ask the Buffalo Sabres back in 1999 if you want to go with the letter of the law. No goal.
Oh. Well, I again, that's another podcast for another day, Bruce. I asked Grant Marshall, good friend of the podcast, was it skating the crease? And he said, absolutely it was. Anyway, well, we'll be back Thursday. It's going to be a pretty busy Thursday this week because we got Devils Rangers, plus we got a certain college football game on as well. But we will be back. Thank you to everybody tuning in, dropping the podcast at midnight. This is At the Point. Sam Wu and Bruce Zeman. Till next time, let's go Devils.